Want to welcome everybody to a very special edition of What the Fuck Paranormal Chat with the Naked Bigfoot. I am your host, Mike the Naked Bigfoot, and I want to thank everybody for taking time out who's on the live tonight. Now, the people who watch this later, I want to thank you for watching it always. But for those who are spending an hour of their Saturday night or Sunday night for some of my folks across the pond, I want to thank you all for coming on tonight. I appreciate you a great deal, especially for a fun topic like we're going to have tonight. Hey, to the Day Sisters. Yeah, I'm calling you sisters. What's going on? I thought you guys would appreciate that. Um, yeah, it's going to be a fun show tonight. Oh, Sherry's here. Chris is here. Well, again, give it a moment for people to come on. It's like I will. Oh, Stephanie. What's up? I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. Everybody. It's going to be a fun show tonight. Um, definitely going to, definitely, especially for a Saturday night. I forget who I was talking to about smells and being. God, who was it? It was Chris here in the chat. As a matter of fact, we were talking about He was talking about Chris from Bald and Bonkers. If you guys are wondering who I'm talking about right now, he's in the chat right now. He's in the live chat right now. We were talking earlier. The other yesterday. I did a Twitter space. If no one's ever done a Twitter space or been involved in a Twitter space, they're really really cool, and it gives you an opportunity to attach voices to names that you interact with people a little bit more. It's a lot of fun. Twitter spaces are a lot of fun. And this Twitter space, we were just talking about paranormal, supernatural, me, all kinds of fun topics. I'm going to have a couple. I'm going to try to do a Twitter space, once or twice a week. So if you missed this last one, and you're on Twitter, we'll have more. We'll have more. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, please take a moment. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. I'm not a political Twitter feed. Okay, you'll never get politics from my Twitter feed. Um, you will get irreverent humor, uh, fun replies. I have a lot of fun with my Twitter feed. You'll hear a lot of. You'll get updates on me in particular. You'll also meet some other really cool people who follow me, and I follow them, and have a lot of fun talking with and sharing information with. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is at VoodooMan3, or if you forget that, you can look up hashtag the Naked Bigfoot or Mike the Naked Bigfoot. You can actually Google Mike the Naked Bigfoot or hashtag the Naked Bigfoot, and you'll pull up a link to my Twitter feed. I can be Google now. I'm really insane. Super Horror Show's here. Super Horror Show's here. What the fuck? I did not expect you tonight, my friend. Oh, it's so nice. For those who do not know Super Horror Show, he's got um, the premiere here on YouTube. He's got the premier animated horror channel. It's some brilliant animation that he does. Amazing storytelling. He does do the occasional interview with living people. Does a has a really really Amy has a really really amazing show. It's a lot of fun. So please check out him. I recommend checking out anybody who's in the chat right now or anybody who's watching. You guys check each other out, follow each other, be friends. We need them. I love it when the community grows and everybody becomes friends. It's a lot of fun because everybody is, who does what we do. Um, Super creative people, fun people, informative people. So I want everybody to check each other out, whether it be Twitter, whether it be their YouTube channel. and see what each other's doing. Everybody here is ultra super creative, so and does some remarkable work as well. So take a moment and check each other out. Okay, this is a formal show. This is not I pull it out my ass show. So I will have to give the disclaimers. The beginning disclaimers I always give them. I know my the people who normally watch my show or know the rules of the show, which there are no rules. But here's the disclaimers, just to get those out of the way. I blanked. It's Saturday night. I blanked. I got a lot to do before I go to bed once this is over with. Um, yeah. Oh, the opinions expressed by your humble host, the Naked Bigfoot, are those of his exclusively. I am not here to incite, change your mind, alter your perception, or harm your soul, spirit, mind, body, health, or anything. My show is is done for entertainment, and it's done for information. It's done for educational purposes for those who wish to learn more. If by any chance that you do feel inspired from one show or any show that on my channel that I've already done or in the future, to go out and explore this crazy, insane, magical, brilliant world that we live in. I encourage you to do so, but I also encourage you to do it safely and sanely. Uh, as you may or may not know, if you look at some of my past videos, when I say safely and sanely, do not use me as an example of doing shit. I've taken a lot of unnecessary risks that early in my life and career, I thought that I was invulnerable and I was stupidly brave about everything. So I have since learned better that there are many occasions, many situations I went into that I should have not walked out of, but I did through sheer blind dumb luck. Um, I do encourage you to explore the world, but I do not encourage you to do it the way I did it. Safely and sanely, people. Also tonight, if you have any small children in the room, or if you're watching if you're watching the rebroadcast of this show, know this: there will be naughty language used by your hosts. It is not done. It is not done gratuitously. It is part of my vernacular. I will not apologize for the way I speak, but I will just offer that warning. If you do not wish for your little boo-boo to learn some naughty words, I ask that you wear headphones while you're watching this show, or you ask little boo-boo to go to bed or leave the room or watch it when they're not in the room. If you're offended by naughty language, I'm not going to apologize, but I do ask that you give this channel, you give this episode and this channel an opportunity. Um, if you can overlook that part of it, because I think you'll really enjoy it. Just ignore the bad language. Also, we do play a drinking game on this show that a lot of people are familiar with. A lot of people enjoy. The drinking game is as follows. Anytime you hear me say that's a story for another time, or that's a story for another day, or some iteration of that, please take a sip or gulp or a shot of an adult beverage of your choice. If you do not drink adult beverages but wish to play the drinking game, please take a drink of your beverage of choice that has no alcohol in it, whether it be juice, milk, water, soda, whatever. If you are watching the replay of the show tonight and still want to play the drinking game, it's no fun to play alone. So get some friends together, and watch the show together and play the drinking game. Some episodes will get you drunker than others. And with that said, by the end of tonight, there's a good chance that you will be snookered, you will be drunk. Do not drink and drive. Do not drink and drive. Do not drink and drive. Imbibe safely, again, imbibe safely and sanely. Do not drink and drive, you know, Your life is important, but so are the lives of all the people around you and the people you love. Do not drink and drive. That's my preachy moment for the night. Alrighty, let's get on with the show. Um, Phantom smells, phantom odors, paranormal funk. It has all kinds of names attached to it. But what essentially, and we're going to talk about, there are different types of phantom smells. And what I'm talking about is, we're not talking about you're with some, you're investigating, if you're a paranormal investigator and you're with some peeps at a haunted location and your friend lets one rip. And tries to blame it on a ghost, but it's actually him shitting his pants right there during the investigation. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of fart jokes tonight, people, just to let you know. A lot of shit and fart jokes tonight, so you'll get a few laughs tonight. So if you have a partner or a buddy who lets one rip, we're not talking about that, okay? We're talking about something a little bit more supernatural, a little bit more paranormal. Actually, Brianna, I am talking from experience. I used to be, before my plumbing went bad, I used to be a fart machine out in the field. I could cut them, I could let it rip. My ass was a musical instrument. It was a wind instrument. It was an anal orchestra. I could play some amazing tunes out my ass. But old age and and bad plumbing later, if I tried to do that now, either I would shit my pants or I would shit blood, and I don't wish to do either one of those right now. But thank you for asking. Um, I hope the show doesn't devolve into shit and fart jokes tonight, but it just might. It just might. We'll try to keep it serious and on topic tonight, everybody. So I don't lose everybody who's in the room right now. Hey, Crapper the ghost. Damn it! Damn it! And by the way, I coined the term excremental. That's trademarked by the Naked Bigfoot. So when I use it tonight, nobody else is allowed to use it without giving me credit for it. Excremental. I will be explaining what that is later. Um, okay. And the preternatural, supernatural, I'm trying to be serious now, people, so stop. In the preternatural, supernatural, and paranormal world, when we talk about ghosts, we're talking about, spirits in general or hauntings in general. Um, doesn't even have to be a haunting, it could be a manifestation of something. Whether it be once human, non human, um, so on and so forth, that they can manifest themselves depending on the energy that they have available to them, both on the spirit from the spiritual world as well as the physical plane in which they're trying to manifest in. Uh, what most people see and experience are, shadows. Sometimes they'll hear disembodied voices. That's a form of manifestation. They'll hear footsteps. That's a form of manifestation. Um, Sometimes, if you're lucky, you'll actually see um, an image of that spirit that it was able to pull together to show it to you at the time that it's doing it. But not every spirit is capable of pulling that trick off. Whether it's um, something that is non-human or once human but is too old or too young of a spirit to be able to do that particular trick. I say that. Now, there are some spirits that the only way they can manifest um, is by odors. But let's talk about ghostly odors first. Let's talk about the once human spirits first, because I've got a little bit of experience in that. I wanted to do this show in particular tonight because next week's show um, is next Wednesday's show coming up. The show coming up after this one. I'm not going to do any more shows until the next one. I promise you. The next show is going to be the Mystery of Hex House, which you've seen. I've had it up and planned for next week. Well, just to give you a little sneak peek again of what I'll be talking about at Hex House, that I when I was at Hex House, now when I would used to go out and consult for investigations, let me pause for a minute and talk about this. When I would pause to go out in investigations, you have to remember this was many, many moons ago, um, where we didn't have all the wonderful different imaging cameras and the heat imaging stuff, the IR cameras, all kinds of stuff. We didn't have that kind of technology back then. uh, we had voice recorders, simple digital recorders, or God knows we had tape recorders as well, mini tape recorders as well, for trying to capture EVPs. We didn't have ghost boxes. We didn't have shit like that. Um, some of the equipment that was available at the time was too expensive and too rare for serious people that were going into it to be able to get their hands on. So, what a lot of paranormal investigators and paranormal researchers as well, what they relied on mostly were their senses, their sense of touch, their sense of smell, their sense of sight, their sense of taste. Um, and during the time when I went out to Hex House at the time, this was one of our low budget investigations, and I'll be talking about the experiences that the team that called me in to do the consulting with. I'll be talking about that at the Mystery of Hex House episode. But when they called me in, they know how I work. When I go in to a place to feel it out, and this is true for many things that I've done. It's something I always do. I go in with this. I don't go in with a bunch of foci. I don't go in with a little black bag full of all kinds of mojo stuff. I don't go in that way. I want to go in and feel the situation out first. And this is true with a lot of investigators still, especially true back in those days of a lot of investigators. You go in and use your senses to tell you what's going on. Um, but when I went in, and when I used to go into any investigation, I would blindfold myself. I would cover my ears. I would cover all my senses except for one. Like if I wanted to listen to a room, I would blindfold myself and I would put a mask over my nose and mouth, where I couldn't smell anything or taste anything in the air. And I could rely mainly on my hearing. I would put on headphones, cover my mouth, leave my eyes exposed if I just wanted to use my sense of vision, so on and so forth. While I was at Hex House, um, I finally whittled it down to my sense of smell when I was there. And that's when something manifests itself, if it either it doesn't have the energy to manifest as anything else but a smell, a physical smell, um, or it's producing the smell to intimidate you, or the smell is a byproduct of it manifesting in the physical plane with you. Um, the smells can be anything. Say, for instance, it was if you go where your grandmother had died at, her favorite, as she was when she was alive, she always wore rose water. She fragranced her clothes with rose water. After she passed away, you walk into her bedroom, which had been cleaned out. It's completely empty, but on the anniversary of her death, when you walk into the room, you can catch the faint whiff of rose water. That would be a good chance that would be some remnant of the spirit of your grandmother, manifesting at the anniversary of her death, uh, in a way that you would be able to recognize it. Something, her signature was that rose water, that smell, defined who she was. Everybody knew her by that wonderful smell of rose water. So she would want you to know that she was there by manifesting that smell again, that memory of that rose water. And when you walk into a room and you close your eyes and you could smell it, you can literally, from that olfactory experience, you can envision your grandmother alive again and standing in front of you based on that smell. You know, your sense of smell is really, really powerful. Sense of smell evokes emotion, can evoke memories, um, all sorts of things a sense of smell can do. Now, when I was at Hex House, one of the smells that was hurled at me at the time, I have to explain that when you hear about the legend of the Mystery of Hex House. One of the smells that was thrown my way um, was the smell of rotting flesh. Just not any flesh, though. I don't. I don't want to say it was rotting. I don't know how many people have ever been to a slaughterhouse. A slaughterhouse that is in, not an old slaughterhouse, but one that's in the old slaughterhouses with the concrete floors that held the smell of the blood and offal that came out of the animals when they were gutted and killed there and dressed there. That was the smell that I picked up at Hex House. But that wasn't the it wasn't a spirit, you know, trying to evoke the memory of itself. It was a spirit that was trying to intimidate me when I was I was at Hex House. So it threw this charnel smell at me, this bloody charnel smell at me, to try to make me leave the room, try to make me leave the house. It didn't work. But that's one way they communicate with you. They may not be able to manifest words or manifest a mouth, um, but they can use smells to communicate with you. Like my example with the grandmother, she wanted to know that you knew that she was there and that she still loved you. So, you know, you smelled that rose water. The thing that was in Hex House was telling me to get the fuck out, and it did that to and the thing is, when I actually stepped away and backed into my friends who were there with me, when I backed into them, they could not smell the smell at first. The smell was surrounding me. But when I backed up, they encountered the odor. The odor overwhelmed them as well. And to the point where they were gagging and wanting to puke after it happened. Me, I have a little bit stronger stomach. I grew up around worse smells than that. They had not. I had a lot of experience with dealing with odors that assaulted the nose. But I'll leave Hex House there. But I just wanted to throw that out about Hex House because I remembered that wasn't the only smell that happened at Hex House. But you'll have to hear more about that in the next show when I talk about the Mystery of Hex House because it got a lot wilder after that. A lot wilder. Now, talking about odors and manifestations again. Let's talk about my faith for a minute. Um, Papa Joey, I'm glad you could jump in for 5 minutes. I hope you get an opportunity to watch this because you know I like talking about. Papa Joey is a paranormal investigator. For those who don't know him, and I have said, and he agrees with me that you can smell spirits. Spirits do manifest smells, and to let you know that they're there, that they're there. Not everybody can pick up on it, but he was been really he agrees with me about that. A lot of us old grizzled parapeeps that are out there agree that your sense of smell is your strongest tool in the field. You know, when you're out and investigating, it's your sense of smell. So it's good to see you tonight, dude. Hope you have a wonderful evening out there in Texas. Um, Let me pause for a moment. It got dark for a moment, didn't it? let me pause for a moment and staying on subject, and let me talk about my faith for a minute. As everybody knows, I am a voodoo priest. I am a Hungan. Now, and those who may or may not know about the faith or have watched any of my past videos, we have our divine ancestors, our revered ancestors that we seek advice from and ask favor of. But we also have the Loa, which are the greater and lesser spirits in our pantheon. I probably shouldn't use the word pantheon, but I'm going to use it because people understand what I'm talking about. There are the greater and lesser Loa. Um, I know that sounds more technical than what it is, but pretty much the Loa exist in families. The one of the families that I pay homage to and owe myself to are the Gadi family of Loa, which are some of the greater spirits, and their children and their children's children. Now, and the lesser Loas, which are like the children's children, they don't have names, but they act as, say, if you were trying to do a simple blessing or simple cleansing, you would have these lesser Loa. You would invoke them, and they would come in and and add their energy to your blessing to make sure that it happens correctly and works out well. They're like the helpers to their family. Um, they're easy to call up. They're 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 easier to reach, and the price for reaching them is not as steep as trying to reach the older members of the family. What I mean by that is you have to pay a price for knowledge or for contact when you are seeking the advice of the Greater Loa. And usually involves large rituals or ceremonies and uh, altar sacrifices. Big things, big things. The lesser members of the family, um, they don't. They don't. They usually just require an acknowledgement of their presence, and they're happy. They can exist for another day based on that alone. Well, there are positive lesser Loa. There are negative lesser Loa. Like I said before, they don't have names, and names are very, very important um, in the paranormal world and in the religious world in general, in the preternatural world in general. They do not have names. Um, so there's no way that you can invoke a name and them have make their presence known. So they have to make their presence known in different ways, and the main way in which they do it is through smell. For example, um, before I would go out and do any major ceremony or riding ceremony where I allow the Loa to ride me, or any major ritual invoking them, I would do something. Um, oh, so cool. That is cool, Pop Joy. God damn it, I got distracted again. I would do a ritual bath. It's a ritual cleansing. And when you're doing a ritual bath and a ritual cleansing, what you're doing is you're removing all the excess energy. Because as you go through a day, you accumulate energy from many sources, from other people, bits and pieces of energy from other people, bits and pieces of energy from your environment, negative energy, positive energy, it doesn't matter. You're picking up all kinds of energy that's not your own. And what the ritual bath would do would remove all that energy and leave just you there. But while you're doing that, you're in the ritual cleansing bath. Um, you're invoking the lesser Loa to come in and aid you in the removal of this energy when you're doing it. That is so cool, dude. That you're the headliner tonight. That is just so fucking cool. I have to stop and acknowledge Papa Joey for a moment. That is so fucking cool. He's headlighted. He's a musician too, by the way. A very talented musician and singer and artist. He's an amazing human being, really is. Happy to know he's having fun tonight. If you see an old bald man sitting in the back row, standing up and clapping, wearing a lot of plaid, um, don't blink or he'll disappear. Gods, dude, I hope you have fun tonight. You have my blessings on that, man. That's living a life right there. That's living the life right there. Okay. Ritual cleansing. You're invoking the Loa to come in and do it. Now, you don't offend in the voodoo faith. You do not offend either side, whether it's negative or positive. You don't offend some of the shadier members of the Loa world, and um, you definitely don't want to piss off any of them more positive, helpful members of the Loa world. So when you invoke them, you invoke all of them. Drew, I'm glad you could come on tonight, my dear. I caught a couple of your shows earlier when I was actually taking a bubble bath. um, while you're in the bath and you invoke them while you're in the bath, they manifest they make themselves known that they're in there with you by manifesting as smells. The positive Loa manifests as natural scents. They manifest themselves as the smell of honeysuckle, the smell of jasmine. Um, Scents that you would associate, that would make you smile, that you associate with something good. And once they come through and remove the daily energy from you and give you their blessing, they move along, but then the negative ones move in behind them to do the same thing. But they manifest themselves as funk, decay, rot, sulfur, um, you name it. It's anything that any foul smell you could possibly imagine, that's them. They're letting you know they're there next doing the job that you've asked them to do. And then they move on. So in our faith, now throughout the day, when I know when the lesser lower are around me, if they're coming in to warn me or to guide me, they'll manifest themselves as odors at the time to let me know they're there. Um, to be careful, um, to not do something, sometimes to tempt me. But I wake up every morning. I shit you not. I wake up every single morning with a different smell in the bedroom that lasts for about a minute when I wake up in the bed. This morning I smelled strawberries and honeysuckle. The other morning I woke up, it smelled like the house was on fire. It was burning down around me. And before I started panicking, I stopped myself. I collected myself. I closed my eyes and collected myself and said, I had to remind myself that I was being visited by something. Something was greeting me that wasn't necessarily a positive entity that morning. And this was, the good morning that it wanted to leave me, was to wake up and smell that. So for the briefest moments, I start to panic, and then I caught myself. I said, give it a moment, breathe deep, let it go. Is the smell still there? And I open my eyes up and take another deep breath, and the smell's not there. And I know it was just there to fuck with me, to yank my chain. But I'm greeted every morning by a scent like that, whether it's something foul or something incredibly pleasant. But it's their way of saying good morning to me. I know that's weird, but it happens. um, these are non-human spirits that I'm talking about. Now, human spirits, on the other hand, when I was telling you before about talking about communication in general, um, some spirits don't have the human spirits. Now we're talking about once human spirits now, or echoes of a spirit, or memories, or a spiritual memory. Ah, what is that, you may ask, a spiritual memory? You have to think, as many hauntings, as many people have died over the course of our history. This would be an incredibly crowded world if every one of those souls um, was the actual soul of the person that died as a ghost and wherever they had died at. What I believe is when somebody dies, that release of their soul, that release of that energy from their body, that soul moves into its next life, into its next world, and it gets back on the great wheel and rides the great wheel to its next destiny. But that burst of energy um, can sometimes create an echo, um, a memory of that spirit, of that soul that's behind. But that memory um, sometimes doesn't have the all the intelligence of, or the personality of the person in which it's the memory of, was the memory of. Um, Now, I'm not saying that all souls do that. Some souls that do leave the body, they stay here. They don't go anywhere. For one reason or another, it stays behind. But I'm talking about memory souls, memory hauntings, memory spirits when they're here. Um, they remember the fundamentals of what their life was, the most important things in their lives, the most memorable things about their lives. That's what's left behind. Um, Sometimes they can manifest hands, heads, eyes, and you can see that. Sometimes they can manifest merely as a cold spot in a room or a cold breeze coming down the steps, because they're trying to communicate with you the best way they can. Sometimes the more adept ones, and the better memory spirits, can speak words to you. They can communicate with you. When I say speak, I'm not saying, like a mouth out of nowhere. But some words can be spoken. Sometimes they can only be picked up as EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon. Uh, and the only way you can hear them is to play back the tape, to play back the recording to hear them. Because they don't have the energy to pierce our world altogether and to, you know, make themselves known with our auditory sense. Uh, but our technology can pick them up perfectly. Now, one of the lesser forms of communication that once through odors, like I was talking about Granny and her rose water. She wanted to let people know that she was there, that it was the anniversary of her death, and she came back to see everybody, so she left the scent of that rose water. Now, that's only one scent, one example. But say that these spiritual memories of these people that died that exist, these echoes, these shadows of what they were that exist, they cannot manifest themselves in any other way except for with smells. But they're trying to communicate with you. They can communicate with the smells that they remember, that they associate with things while that at the time in which they were alive. Um, Say they were trying to it was they're trying to communicate with you that they're happy that you're there. You might start smelling baked goods in the room. um, you might start smelling an apple pie in the room. You might be smelling a man's cologne or a woman's perfume, or their favorite flower, you know or their favorite brand of tobacco smoke, of tobacco, whether it be pipe tobacco, cigarettes, whatever. Whatever that they saw as something positive in their former life, um, and they wish to communicate with you positively. So if you're talking with them, trying to communicate with them in the room, and the person that's trying to communicate with them, um, they will direct those odors to the person trying to communicate with them. Or if they're trying to get your attention and you haven't set up any form of communication with them yet, they will come by and they will put the memory of those smells, in front of you and make you start paying attention. Now, that's the happier side of it right there. Like if you ask a question, is it okay that we're here with you right now, that we're in the room with you right now? And they could, you would suddenly, the room would suddenly fill with the smell of roses. I would take that as a genuine positive that they want you to be there with them, that they're happy that you're there in the room with them, or they're in their presence at the time that you're there with them. They're happy to see you. But say they didn't want you to be there, and they had no other way of communicate with you but smells, and they've already, and you ask them, are you happy that you're in here with us and that we're here with you? Is it okay that we're with you? And they want to get rid of you. They want to get you out of there. They'll manifest a smell that they remember as something being positive. Be, it could literally be horse shit. Seriously. It could be the smell of crap, of shite that you smell, fresh crap. The smell of something rotten, the smell of sulfur. Now, the sulfur thing is what gets people all the time. This is what people get in trouble with all the time. Whenever they smell sulfur, they automatically assume that the smell of sulfur is something negative. They start screaming demon off the top of their head. That's bullshit. Okay, the smell of sulfur does not necessarily denote that you're in the presence of something demonic and dark. You're just in the presence of something 9 times out of 10 that's trying to tell you that it's unhappy with you for one reason or another. And it remembers the smell of sulfur, remembers the smell, of rotten eggs. And it knows that it didn't like that smell. And if it didn't like it, it knows you're not going to like it. So what's it going to do? It's going to manifest the smell of rotten eggs in your nose and tell you to leave. Now, if you break out a cross and try to go all exorcist on it and scream, demon, 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 I'm being attacked by a demon, um, you're going to get a chuckle out of that spirit because it thinks it's done its job. It's scared the fuck out of you and you're going to leave. And it has nothing to do with a demon. It just wants to get rid of you. And if you believe it's a demon and it gets you the hell out of the room, gets you the hell out of the house, gets you the hell out of the area, then so be it. It'll be a demon then. And it remembers that that smell is what drove these people, the living people out of my area. And it's going to continue to do that. And that's where legends spring up about, oh, a demon is in that house, haunts that house. A demon possesses that house. It lives in that house. If you're in there, you can smell sulfur. You can smell blood. No, that's a clever spirit that figured out that those smells will make your ass leave. And it's continuing to manifest that whenever it sees you. Think of it as a skunk. A skunk by itself is pretty much harmless, you know, gets along with all the other animals of the woods. But when a human walks into the room and the skunk spots it and the skunk wants to get rid of it, the skunk is not going to spray you with rose water. The skunk is going to spray you with skunk. You're going to smell like ass when the skunk sprays you. And you have to think of it like that. That ghost is a skunk. You've stepped into its territory. It's going to light you up and make you leave. And so happens it's using your sense of smell to do it. Now, with that said, there are some spirits, especially nature spirits, spirits of the natural world, um, that leave scents behind when they're moving, when they're traveling. And you're able to detect them when you're walking through the woods. Um, there's a spot here on my farm. We raise wintergreen. For those who don't know, we raise wintergreen on the farm because we harvest wintergreen, both leaves to make tea with and the berries to eat. Wintergreen berries taste freaking amazing if you never had wintergreen berries. So just putting that out there. Um, but there are things here on the property, and I will have to name them something I don't wish to name them. Naming things can be tricky, okay? Naming things can be tricky. Mislabeling things can be tricky. You have to be really careful when you name something. Um, but there are spirits of the air um, that I know when they're about outside, and the wintergreen has gone is out of season, but I'm in the backyard under the oak tree where the wintergreen is nowhere around it, and the wind starts will blow by me, and I can smell wintergreen, and I know that something from the natural world, something from the natural spiritual world, whether it be an elemental or whatever it is, has passed by me on its way through. And I know, and it's marked its progress and it smells like wintergreen. It smells like something natural that's here on my farm. Because things like elementals and things of the natural world, spirits of the natural world, they pick up when they are gathering the elements around them so they can move from point A to point B. They pick up things like dirt. They pick up things like wintergreen, the scent of wintergreen, and it makes up part of their form. And they leave that as a trail behind them when they move through an area. And you're actually able to follow them based on that smell until they realize that you're following them, and then you don't find the smell anymore for a long time because they don't want you to follow them. Um, but yes, smell in the now we're I was talking specifically about ghosts and spirits, but there are actually things in our world that gather up um, odor to give themselves a not to communicate with, but to give them give themselves a physical form. Um, about to tell you a quick story about the Fae. Uh, on farms where slaughterhouses, where people slaughter their food, they have a building set up to slaughter with a smokehouse, so on and so forth. There is a type of elemental spirit um, that can manifest from all that death, that can manifest from all that slaughter, all that blood shedding, that can manifest itself from that. It's called a rawhead. Um, it's an old Irish fairy type spirit. Well, it was talked about on a lot of Irish legends, the rawhead, but just not in Ireland. There are forms of the rawhead throughout Germanic lore, Slavic lore, um, southern European countries, northern parts of France and Italy. They have some form of the rawhead, which can manifest itself as that. Now, a rawhead uses the parts that you leave behind of an animal when you slaughter it to give itself form. Whether it's the blood, a bit of bone, a bit of skin, a hoof, organs that hit the ground that you can't use anymore, an eyeball, a horn, you name it. It uses these things to give itself form. But these parts don't make up an entire body. The pieces of the body that are missing that it's trying to build for itself. Think of it as like the Dr. Frankenstein of the fairy world. The Frankenstein's monster of the fairy world. It's trying to build itself a body. Um, and it uses all these bits and pieces in which to do it with. Uh, the parts that it fills in the parts that it doesn't have. Say it doesn't have an arm, or if it's missing part of its foot. It'll actually use the putrescence of the body parts that are rotting on it, or the bits and pieces it's collecting that are rotting on it, um, to fill in those parts of its body. Say it was miss, it could not, couldn't find enough bits and pieces and bone and stuff to give itself a left arm. So it uses the putrescence, this smell, to give itself a an arm that's basically made up of odor, made up of funk. And one of the trickier things about a raw head is they get bigger over time. Um, they can become dangerous, especially the children. That they will use these appendages that are made of this putrescence um, to harm children with it, to make children sick from the odor, give them different ailments, give them fevers from the odor and the putrescence. Um, Once you realize that you have a raw head on your property, so raw heads become invisible and they also move incredibly fast. And the one way to know that you have one is that if you go to a child's room and the child's window is open, but there is the lingering smell of rot in the room, of something rotten, like you left hamburger sitting outside for too long, or you left a fish that was rotting and baking in the sun for too long, and you know that more than likely the raw, and you're on a farm, and again, you're at a place where a rawhead can manifest, can build a body for itself. You know that you're dealing with something like a rawhead, that it's in there trying to make the child sick. The best way to rid yourself of a rawhead is with bundles of mint, fresh mint, and planting mint underneath the windows of your house and around your farm. Um, Mint has a purifying effect on things like that. A purifying effect on the dead and the smell of death. It purifies it, drives it away, and it will cause a raw head to literally fall apart if you have enough mint planted on there. It can't travel through mint. It can't go in through a window where mint is planted under the window, or if the mint is put around the windowsill. And the raw head will fall apart. And one way to find out that whether or not it worked or not, um, and I have actually seen this, which is fascinating, is that I have seen a spot where I swear there was a raw head on the property, and it tried to go through a patch of spearmint. I'm not saying these things are intelligent, they're not very bright. And when it tried to pass through it, its body fell apart. The body it put together fell apart in the mint garden. I knew something I knew something had happened there because the mint was covered in blowflies and black house flies and green bottle flies, as if something rotten had been dumped there, but there's no sign of it there. But the flies can sense it and they're there seeking it out. I had walked past a patch of mint and I thought it was actually covered in bees, but it was actually flies. And it took me a minute before I realized this was probably a spot where a raw head was discorporated at. And I did catch a faint whiff of something rotten, but there was no sign of anything rotten there in the mint. But the flies sensed it, and they were there. So that's another handy hint. If you guys ever go by a patch of mint and it's covered in flies, that means that something like a raw head has was foolish enough to stumble into it, and the body that it created itself had fallen apart. But that scent of putrescence that it had about itself had attracted those flies to that spot, and that's a clear indication that there's something hanky going on your farm that you need to start paying attention to. So to answer the question that I had tonight, that I put in my description, can you smell a spirit? Yes, you can. Um, Your sense of smell in any supernatural, paranormal, or preternatural situation is the most important tool that you have on you. You can have all the electronic equipment in the world, but it's this right here that's going to key you in to things that are happening around you. So pay attention and be careful when you go out exploring. I want to thank everybody tonight for coming on and for joining in the chat and for listening to my tale. I look forward to you all being here next time. I want to thank everybody who's watching the replay right now. I cherish you as much as the people on the live. Thank you so very much. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Please share it with your friends. I'm sure you got plenty of friends out there to be interested in what goes on here. Again, if you're on Twitter, please, you can follow me at VoodooMan3. Or if you look it up under Mike the Naked Bigfoot, you'll be able to find me. I look forward to seeing you all back here next time. Have a fantastic night. This has been What the Fuck Paranormal Chat with the Naked Bigfoot. I am your host, Mike the Naked Bigfoot, wishing you all sweet dreams.